Verbal Riot.
Well, Fantastic Four just dropped this weekend, and as you might have guessed, it's a hot button issue right now, especially online. People are on social media debating how woke it is. They're debating if it's better than Superman and all that good stuff. So, we're going to talk about that. We're definitely going to get into it. In fact, this is going to be a spoiler review, but like always, guys, I'm going to give you a big ass warning, right? Big ass spoiler warning that says, hey, we're going to get into some stuff. And if you want to know about it, great, stay on. If you don't, you might want to hop off, watch the movie, and then come back. But we're going to get deep into the weeds of this, right? Because there's a lot of speculation and a lot of hot heads prevailing, I guess you could say, online about this movie. Now, here's the thing. I definitely was not a fan of the casting. You know, when I heard certain things about this movie, I went into it very much thinking, okay, I'm not going to like this, right? I'm probably going to hate it, especially because I don't like Pedro Pascal. I'm not a fan of his. Tired of him, but besides being tired of his movies, I'm just tired of him, right? I'm tired of his politics. I'm tired of all of that garbage, right? But here's the thing: me being a film critic, I judge every movie on its merit. I'm not going to hold my personal issues about either an actor or a studio. I'm not going to bring that into my review of a film. When I review a movie, I'm reviewing it on the material, and that's it. With that said, I really like this movie. I really like this movie. Now, the weird thing about the Fantastic Four, right? And I gotta kind of sidetrack a little bit. It's had a rocky relationship, man, when it comes to movies, right? The Fantastic Four material. I've always loved the book. Not the biggest fan, but hey, this is Marvel's first family. And me being a huge comic book fan, I of course love these characters, right? So even though I was more of an X-Men guy, Fantastic Four is part of the family, right? So for me, for me, Fantastic Four, the comic, has always read more like a sci-fi book more so than a superhero book. Even though they did superhero things, it was a very heady, very kind of like ahead of its time kind of comic, right? So I get the concepts in it, man, and all the crazy, wacky things that we love about the original Fantastic Four is all thanks to one man, right? Jack Kirby. I mean, I know some of y'all want to say Stan Lee, and that's fine, but let's give the man his credits. Jack Kirby is the reason why Fantastic Four was as good as it was. And so, even though they were wacky, even though they were crazy, and even though we love this stuff, man, the problem is translating that into film for this franchise in particular has always kind of been a problem, right? It's kind of hard to really capture the Fantastic Four cinematically. You know, we tried it. Okay, we tried it. We did it with look, in 1992, 93, we got the Roger Corman version of the Fantastic Four. It was a hot mess, right? It was bad. It was so bad. It didn't even get a VHR release, right? Like it wasn't even on VHR. It was so bad, right? It got released on video like years later, man. And I think it was because like it got a lot of popularity at Comic Con, and so they decided, hey, let's just release the VHR. I'm sorry, VHS version of this movie, and so we finally got the VHS version of Fantastic Four with Roger Corman. I've seen it, right? And look, I love Roger Corman, great director. He did the best he could with what he had. He had a small budget. He had very limited special effects, and so we got this garbage. Okay. And again, to his credit, man, the guy gave it everything he could. So okay, you fast forward a few years later, we got the 2005, 2006 Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis, I keep forgetting the other actor's name, but we got this version of Fantastic Four. And it was fine. It was a fine movie. I mean, it wasn't great. It was not great, right? And this came out right after X-Men. So a lot of comparisons to the two movies, but it wasn't a great film, but it was fine for what it was, right? Jessica Alba was hot, nice to look at. Chris Evans was funny, right? He brought a lot of humor to the Fantastic Four, and Michael Chiklis really, he went all in with the thing, and we got the best uh audio, we got the best vocals out of his thing. So uh didn't do great. I mean, it did okay. It did enough to make a sequel. Okay, Rise of the Silver Surfer. My problem with this franchise, the movie and the sequel, was the fact that Doctor Doom was dog shit. I hated that Doctor Doom so much, man. I in the first movie more so because that just wasn't Doctor Doom at all. In the second movie, in Rise of the Silver Surfer, they tried to make him a little bit more doomish, right? Like we finally got to see Latveria for the first time. Uh, it was kind of too late, man. The best thing about that movie was the Silver Surfer, and even then, it didn't do great in the box office, right? Because again, this movie or this franchise, it's very hard to translate into film properly. You know what I mean? So then we go, shit, man, 10 years later to like 2015, 16. I can't remember when this movie came out, but then we got Fan Four Stick, right? And this was some bullshit. Right? This was Michael B. Jordan playing the Human Torch. We got Kate Mara playing Invisible Woman, Miles Teller as Reed Richards. And what they were trying to do was they were trying to go with a younger, because they thought, hey, if we make them younger, the kids that come watch the film. Universally, everybody hated this movie. Hated it. It was garbage, right? So they just decided, hey, you know what? Let's just bury the Fantastic Four completely. And we haven't heard anything about a Fantastic Four movie until now, right? Until recently. So the reason why I went through all this is to tell you guys, man, it's very hard to capture the essence, the real essence, like of the Fantastic Four. It just really is on film. And with all that said, I did like this movie a lot, right? I think there was a lot to it. And again, I'm not going into spoilers yet. The spoiler label hasn't come up. Without going into spoilers, what I liked about the film was it felt very much like a Fantastic Four comic book for me. The only part that kept pulling me a little out of it was Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. With that said, he wasn't as bad as I thought he would be as Reed Richards. He was actually okay. And I'm saying that very loosely. He was better than I thought he would be. Everybody else for me did a great job in the film, right? I love Vanessa Kirby, right? And I loved her Sue Richards in this movie. When you compare her Sue Richards to Jessica Alba or to Kate Mara, right? This Sue Richards felt like a woman. She didn't feel like a girl. You get what I'm saying? She felt like a grown-ass woman. And I love that. I love the fact that we finally got a real Sue Richards in this movie. And for all the rumors and speculation about her being a girl boss, which I'm going to get into in the spoilers, she's not. She's not. She is a strong woman in the movie. She's a mother, but she's not a girl boss. And I'm going to get way more into that. Johnny Storm, who I did not think was going to be that great in the film, and I'm blanking on the actor's name right now, which is, I know, messed up for me, right, as a film reviewer. But you guys also, I'm coming off a really messed up flu, so I'm I'm a little spacey, but my review is all here. But Johnny Storm for me in this film was kind of the standout. Johnny Storm did things in this film that, for me, kind of made me respect the character of Johnny Storm a lot more than I have in previous. Because in other movies and cartoons and comics, not so much in the comics, but cartoons and other movies, he's the funny guy and he's like the hothead and he's the womanizer, which is all, whatever. It's fine and good. This movie gave Johnny a lot more substance than I thought he had, which really kind of changed my opinion of Johnny Storm. And I am going to get more into that as well. The Thing was fine. I didn't feel like the Thing he didn't have like the hugest arc or anything. I really didn't care for his voice, right? I wanted the rocky, gravelly voiced Thing. We didn't get that here, but at the same time, it wasn't too distracting in the film either, right? And Ben was great. Ben was great in the film. He just wasn't. He just didn't have like the kind of arcs that all the other characters did, which is kind of unfortunate. Like even the stuff where it should have been more impactful with Ben, right? Like when he's wandering the streets and he's looking at himself in the mirror. Like we're not getting the fact that he is kind of torn in the way that he looks and what those looks give him as far as power, right? Like we didn't get too much of a divided Ben, which I wish we kind of would have got. So whatever. And then there's Reed. Then there's Reed. So Reed Richards for me, again, didn't care for Pedro Pascal. But another criticism I do have about this Reed Richards, and this might be a little spoiler, but not really. My problem with this Reed Richards is we don't get a lot of his power, right? Like we don't get a lot of his power. Like we see him do some stretchy things, but it's very limited. Like he stretches his arm, he stretches his legs. There's a scene I'll get more into where he gets kind of stretched out. But we don't see him do anything creative with his powers the way I was hoping we would, man. Especially, and believe me, guys, here's the thing. Stretching powers in movies, they could come off very cheesy. They can come off cheesy, they can come off pretty bad looking. But after watching One Piece, right? Watching what Luffy does with his stretching powers, I'm like, why couldn't they do that with Reed in this movie? We should have seen a lot more creative things done with his power, right? Like we should have saw the giant fist. We should have saw him turn into a giant ball to catch people from falling, right? And just creative things we could have saw with him that we did not see. But what we did get, and I'm so grateful for this, man, is we got to see Reed be Reed. We got to see him be the smartest man in the world. And you're going to hear a lot of weird critiques from certain people about how smart he is. Reed saved the world. And I'm going to get more into that. Reed Richards, right? They're going to say, oh, the girl bosses. No. Reed Richards, if it wasn't for him, like that world would be dead. So Reed is the hero of this film. With that said, they all are. This was a team movie. Not one person specifically was responsible. Even though I'm still going to say it's Reed because without him, it wouldn't have worked. So, yeah, this movie for me was fun. It was fun. It was interesting. It was very interesting. And there are some scenes, man, with Galactus for me that are ripped straight out of a Kirby comic, man. Like when they first meet Galactus, the way they shadow him and then his eyes glowing, that was some shit straight out of the books. And I loved all of that crazy stuff, man. Because for me, Jack Kirby is the greatest comic book creator or artist in the world for me, man. I love all of his stuff. Fantastic Four, the New Gods. Man, give me Kirby any day. I mean, MODOK, all of that. Give me Kirby, right? And they did that for me, right? Now, was this movie perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This movie had all kind of problems, right? Was it enjoyable for me? Yes, very much enjoyable. Now, guys, we are going to get into spoilers. See that? Big ass spoiler warning. Right? You guys have time. You have time right now to log off or stay on if you don't care about the spoilers. But just know you have been warned. Big ass spoiler warning. I gave you enough time to check out, right? In fact, I gave you the whole fucking intro to Juvenile's Back That Ass Up, right? So just think about the intro of that song. I gave you that much time. All right, let's get into the spoiler review, man. Okay, Fantastic Four. So I already gave you guys a lot, man. But I'm going to give you what I didn't like about the film as well. Okay. Even though the pacing for me, I thought the pacing was so much better than Superman. And again, guys, remember, I like Superman too. But the pacing felt less manic. It felt, more structured, like more focused than Superman. So I was able to enjoy it that way. But I will admit that there's some scenes, there's some times where it kind of drags a little bit, and I'm just like, okay, let's move this along, right? But to be fair, that's my criticism for a lot of films. I feel like most films these days go on way too long, or scenes go on way too long. So that is a critique that I had. Another big thing for me, honestly, was the lack of Doctor Doom, or at least the presence of Doctor Doom. Like there's a scene where, they're talking to the United Nations, right? And they show all the countries and all the people representing the countries, and then they show Latveria and it's empty. It's empty, right? Like Victor Von Doom isn't there. And I'm just kind of thinking like, okay, here we go. Like I felt like this movie, even though it's Fantastic Four, it needed that presence at least a little bit. Even if Doom wasn't going to be the villain, we needed to at least see him. I felt like. I mean, did it completely take away from the film? No, but you do kind of notice. It's weird having a Fantastic Four movie without Doctor Doom in some way, right? So we didn't get that. Well, not look. There's a mid credit. That's all I'll say. So we do get a little. Not as much as I wanted in the film. Okay. Um. Now there are some things, man, that I absolutely loved. Right. They go through in the beginning. They go through the. You've all seen the scene where the guy, the talk show host, talking, and he introduces the Fantastic Four. He rattles off their accolades and all the things that they've done. The cool thing about that, though, is they show a montage of all the Fantastic Four villains that they fought in the comics, which is cool. Like we get to see Mole Man, who, by the way, Mole Man actually does play a decent part in this movie. Like Mole Man is he's a character in the film. We get to see like the giant monster that comes out of the ground, which the cover of the #1 Fantastic Four comic. We got to see a lot of cool things, man. What was obviously missing was John Malkovich's character, Red Ghost, who he was supposed to play in the film. For some reason, they cut him out, but we still got to see his minions in the movie. So that was a little weird. That it might have been a weird choice to make to cut Malkovich out of the film, which is crazy to me. Like, if you got John Malkovich in your film, why the fuck would you ever cut him out of your movie, right? But they did. They cut Malkovich out. So I thought that whole setup was really cool. I like the banter between Johnny and Ben. I felt like it was like two brothers fighting, which they've always kind of did a good job of that. Even in the 2005 version, there was nothing special about their relationship really outside of that. But I will say this, man. I will say that this family, this four, they did feel more like a family, and it could have been because Sue was pregnant and going to have a baby, and they're going to be uncles for the first time, so it did feel a little bit more family unit. But it was, it was what it was. I did like the family aspect of this film. Speaking of the baby, Franklin plays a huge role in this. In fact, Galactus is after the baby, right? Now, yeah, he wants to eat the world, but he's willing to negotiate, right? And the scene where the Fantastic Four leave Earth and hyperspace and meet up with Galactus, it's it's a great scene. It's a great scene, and that's where he makes it known that, hey, Franklin, he wants Franklin to take his place, right? He wants Frank because he's tired of being the devourer of worlds. So he wants Franklin to be his replacement. And once they find that out, they got to escape his ship and get back to Earth because they're not going to give up their baby, right? This brings us to the most controversial part of the movie, which is the Silver Surfer, or who some are nicknaming the Silver Surferette. Was I a fan when I heard that they were going to use Shalla as the Silver Surfer? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. For me, look, and I know she's a character in the comic, but for me, Norrin Rad is the Silver Surfer. That's it. It's Norrin Rad. I like Norrin Rad. collected the books back in the day. I won't say I'm the biggest Silver Surfer fan, but I am a fan nonetheless, right? And I was a little pissed that they did not go with him. With that said, I didn't think that Julia Gardner did a bad job as a Silver Surfer. And the reason why I say that is, even though I didn't like the fact that they used a female Silver Surfer, I liked her relationship with Johnny, or at least not relationship. That's a strong word. I like their interactions. I like their chemistry. Right? It was almost like, you know, like a romance thing in a way, even though they didn't fully get into it. But I like their chemistry together, right? And I like the fact that Johnny even tries to save her, man. Which is I like the I love the re I love the I love them together on screen. I love Johnny Storm and the female Silver Surfer together. It brought something different for me, right? Even though I would rather have Norrin Rad as the Silver Surfer. Uh, I like what they did with her for the most part, right? Now you're gonna hear a lot of things about, oh, the girl bosses, are the ones who beat Galactus. No, absolutely not. That's not what happened. Sue Storm, in a desperate act towards the end, when they're trying to trap Galactus in this teleportation thing, right, to send him to a different part of the universe, right, a place where he's away from his ship, so it would take him like millions of years to ever get back to Earth, right? Reed Richards, smartest man on Earth, set all this up to where the whole world had these things that they built to, because the original plan was to shift or to transfer Earth to a different place to get away from Galactus. But once Reed Richards, he didn't figure out what happened with the Silver Surfer, intervened. He came back and destroyed all those things that Reed built, except for one, which put them back at zero, right? So he had to think of a plan B like that. And the plan B was, okay, if we can't move Earth, we're going to move Galactus himself. And all of that, the whole plan goes awry for the most part, right? And there's a scene where Galactus does get a hold of Franklin. So yes, Sue, in the desperate act of a mother, what she's doing is, like, because he's walking away with the baby, she's using her power to hold him in place and pull him back, right? And of course, he's way stronger and he's pulling her with him, but she's doing enough to where the rest of the team I'm sorry, y'all. The rest of the team could get into position uh to get him to that transponder, right? So she does do this crazy act of a power. Now, I equate that to, like, you always hear the story, right, of the mother who, gets adrenaline, who lifts a car to save her baby. This was the equivalent of that, except with superpowers. This wasn't no girl boss shit. Okay. You're going to hear a lot of dumb shit. It's not girl boss. At least I didn't feel like it was girl boss. It was desperate, right? And she was a desperate woman. And by the way, her using all that power did kill her. Sue died in the film. Now Franklin brought her back. I will say that, but she died by every she was dead. And then the Silver Surfer, because Galactus wasn't fully going into the thing, he was getting pulled, right? Johnny Storm was like, hey, you know what? He's not going in. I'm going to sacrifice myself. Johnny was going to sacrifice himself by torpedoing him into the thing, meaning Johnny would have got sucked into. And Johnny, it's weird, man. People were going to say he got cut, which is stupid to me. It's like, no, Johnny was about to sacrifice his life for his nephew. He was like, you know what? Tell Franklin I love him. He went in. Silver Surfer intervened and knocked Johnny out of the way. And she took the bullet and took Galactus in there with him. And there's a whole setup as to why she did this, by the way. And there's a good setup that Johnny did that she put him in there, right? So, guys, I know I'm giving you like the whole thing, right? I'm giving you like kind of almost the whole story, but I feel like I had to do that because you're going to read and see a lot of reviews. You're going to hear some things about this film that aren't necessarily, look, okay, I'm not going to say they're not accurate. I'm going to say it's their point of view. For me, this movie is not woke. It's not woke. It's not girl bossy because you're going to hear all those things. Yeah. Do I like Pedro Pascal now after this movie? No. No. I still feel the same way about Pedro Pascal as I did before. I feel he's overused. I hate the fact that he brings his politics into everything. Don't like the guy, right? Still don't like him. He did an okay job. Very okay job as Reed. Still don't like him. The movie wasn't woke. The movie wasn't. It was enjoyable. For me, it was enjoyable. Had a good time with it. And now what's funny is if you go online, right? Because I wrote a few posts on X before I did this review. Oh man, look, guys, I get it. We live in a time where we're tired of studios shoving down their politics, down our throats, and we're tired of being told what to do, what to like, and how we have to accept things. And I get that. Believe me, I get that more than anybody. Genuine for the most part. For the most part, I hate swapping of any kind. I'm not a fan of race swapping, not a fan of gender swapping. But I also have to review a movie for what it is, right? And if it works, it works. For me, this worked, right? It worked. I came out of the movie feeling like, that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad at all. That was actually pretty good. I had a good time. Here's the thing: I had a good time in the theater watching this movie. And you know what? Not just me. Everybody I was with, because it was a packed house. Everybody who I saw the movie with were clapping, cheering, laughing at the parts where they needed to laugh, and gasping at the parts where they need to get, it was a good experience in the theater. So if you're trying to make up your mind as to whether you want to watch it or not, here's what I'll say: avoid social media. Right? I'm not saying don't listen to critics or what you can watch the reviews and do all this stuff, right? What I'm trying to tell you guys is make up your own opinion, make up your own mind, right? Don't listen to people who their first go-to for everything is it's woke, right? Because this movie could have been very woke, and it wasn't. It's that simple. It could have been woke, but it was actually just a fun movie with some very cool and very heady concepts, right? Just like the books. So anyway, y'all, that's it for me, man. That I didn't want to get so detailed into this story or into my review because I want you guys to really just enjoy it and see it for yourself. But there's a lot of garbage out there right now. There's a lot of stupidity and people who and by the way, guys, I'm not saying if you didn't like the film you're one of those people. That's not what I'm saying. If you went into this movie and just genuinely didn't like it, okay, that's fair, that's fine. You don't have to like everything. I don't like everything, right? There's movies that people love that I feel nothing for. I could care less about. So I'm not saying you have to like anything. You don't. What I'm saying is though, go in and make your mind up for yourself, right? See for yourself and then say something. Don't talk a bunch of bullshit when you haven't seen the film, right? Because I'm sorry, at that point, your opinion doesn't count. If you haven't seen the film and you're giving critique of a movie that you have not seen, I don't want to hear it, right? Now, if you saw the movie and you got, solid critique of it, I'm all ears. I'm all ears. I'd love to hear a different perspective, but only if you've seen the movie. And if you choose not to see the movie based on your own, values or your own politics, because let's be real, that's what this is. Okay. Just say that you don't want to see it because you don't like Pedro Pascal. You don't like, female Silver Surfer. Just say that you don't want to see it for those reasons. That's fine. Again, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to see anything. But again, just judge for yourself, though, for the most part, if you're going to critique it. Anyway, y'all, that was that was a lot. But thank you guys so much for watching this, man. I really appreciate it. And again, this review got a little bit more detailed than I wanted, but I really want to kind of just dive into this, right? Because I already know the conversations I'm going to have from here on are going to be very spicy, to say the least. I'm already seeing it right now. But guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. Please like the video, share it, do all that cool YouTube stuff. And I will talk to you guys soon.